So welcome back everyone. You have learned so much about the Titanic and you've done some great work to show us what you've learned. Your drawings were so creative and really let us see what you are thinking about as you read about the Titanic. So at this point, we all know about the unfortunate series of events that were faced by the passengers aboard the ship as it crashed into a giant iceberg, causing severe damage and panic. Today, we are going to read to find out what happened as the passengers scrambled to board the few available lifeboats. So as you read, feel free to again take notes or even create some drawings about anything that you found interesting or to help you better understand what you have read. So as I continued to read about the desperation aboard the Titanic as it began to quickly sink, I began to think about what I would have done to try to save my family from the danger. At around 1:30 a.m., panic increased as the passengers realized that the ship was going to sink and that they might not make it onto one of the few lifeboats. Some passengers attempted to board already full lifeboats, and crew members struggled to hold these men back, resorting to firing their guns into the air to try to gain some control of the passengers. So, despite calls for help that were sent out to other ships, Captain Smith knew that no ship was coming to their rescue, and he was alone in trying to save the lives of as many passengers and crew as possible. Families began to be separated as the lifeboats were filling up, and boys were no longer allowed on the boats. Mothers became desperate as their husbands and sons were pulled from them when jumping into a lifeboat. This was the last time that family members would ever see each other. Around 2:00 a.m., 1,500 people still remained on board as the ship continued to sink into the freezing waters. At this point, only one available lifeboat remained. The crew members had to form a circle around this boat to ensure that only women and children entered. The mix of emotions that must have been present on the Titanic at this point made it difficult for any sort of organization to exist when loading the lifeboats. The captain ordered the crew members to stop sending SOS messages to other boats, as he saw that nothing more could be done to save the ship or the people on board. During this moment, the remaining passengers and crew on board realized that there were no more lifeboats, and this would likely be the end for them. With no options left, it seemed that many passengers began to accept their fate. Some of them stood on deck looking out into the ocean, while others did things such as attend the gym or listen to the orchestra playing its final songs. There was much debate as to whether the Titanic sunk in one piece or broke into multiple pieces. It seemed that, as it sank, the huge ship began to break apart due to its heavy weight. At 2:20 a.m., it was reported that the Titanic was fully underwater. No one was certain as to what happened to Captain Smith, although some passengers on a lifeboat claimed that he jumped into the water and drowned alongside his ship. Those passengers in the lifeboats all had different reactions as they watched the beautiful ship sink. The lifeboats did not go back to rescue these passengers for fear of being swamped by the individuals in the water. At 3:00 a.m., all was silent as the ship had fully sank and the screams of the passengers could no longer be heard. So, today, your task will be to read about the final moments of the Titanic as it quickly sank. You will then get to pretend to be a newspaper reporter to report about the sinking of the Titanic. You will just be creating the front page of a newspaper, and a template has been provided for you to do so you can delete the words that I wrote. It's just there to help you know what to fill in each part of the newspaper. You need to think of a name for your newspaper, as well as a title for your article. Your job is to inform people about what happened to the Titanic. I would like you to include at least 7 sentences to report what happened to the Titanic. You need to start with a sentence that introduces what you will be talking about, which will be the sinking of this boat. In your article, you can include details such as how there was no evacuation plan, how the boat crashed into the iceberg, what happened with the lifeboats, or what happened as the Titanic sank. You can also pretend to have interviewed one of the passengers or crew members and include what they said to answer the questions that you asked them. Please end with a sentence that wraps up what you discussed. And feel free to find images of the Titanic to put into the template next to your article. I have included a sample newspaper article for you to refer to if you need some help, and please feel free to reach out if you need any assistance with this assignment.